following broadcast is brought to you by A.C.T, Agorist Center of Thought. Here only on the Voluntary Virtues Network. Every Saturday, 9 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join us on the dark side of radio. Agora, Anarchy, Action. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. This is the Agora Underground. I am Comrade Dick, your host, sitting here with
Darian. What's up, man? What's going on? How's your week, man, Richard?
Pretty good, Darian, pretty good. We also got a friend, Glenn, up in here.
Glenn, what's going on? Thanks for coming, man.
That's right. We're representing San Antonio, always meeting, encouraging others to investigate the philosophy and find out about anarchy, ladies and gentlemen. We are in association with Free San Antonio and association with Agorist of Central Texas, and we are here on the Voluntary Virtues Network. We do appreciate you for tuning in, fellow anarchists, objectivists, and just freedom lovers and liberty lovers out there. As you know, we have been covering agorism and what it means to the anarcho-capitalist, how it's applied, what it actually entails as a philosophy. And essentially, right, we've covered economics, right, as we've read. Agorism completely is in line without, lockstep in motion with Austrian economics. There's no debate about those two. And, and last week we covered counter-economics, right? We realized, we took the observational realization that, hey, almost everything we do is breaking the law.
Yeah, pretty much, right?
Yeah, just about. So I mean, we might as well live free, right? And disregard these regulations that aren't even an obstruction of actual law, natural law.
They're pretty much fictionary, like.
Yeah, just fictionary regulations. It's edicts, right? Edicts written, no different than edicts written by popes and kings and stuff. Makes no difference. So we might as well use the counter economy in order to remain consistent. And we did talk about a whole range of things, right? I mean, remember Konkin brought up the communist in Russia, how under communism there was the Nalevo market, the left market, where people were on the underground selling goods and services. And we actually, Darian and I were doing some research on that, and we came across this really great study, not really a study, but like a
survey, more like
a news report on NPR about North Korea. Remember that? North Korea with the underground market going down over there.
Yeah, I remember seeing that, and that was a very interesting little audio. I mean, it wasn't really a video. It's more of an audio, but it's a story of how, I mean, even under the most totalitarian government, you can't stop the people from exchanging in the counter economics, and
that's right.
You can't stop that. People are always going to want to exchange goods and services, and that was a really good example of agorism to the max.
Yeah, definitely, and as is has become self-evident to all you listeners that anybody that observes the real world here in our economy, right, in the United States. The black and the gray market provide for a whole range of things, right? Even in our economy, it provides for protection, provides for, in extreme cases, not even extreme cases, just, in many cases, medical treatment, right? Medical treatment that is otherwise illegal or barred from you being able to choose that medical, marijuana, right? Medical marijuana, which we know the studies of marijuana. It's a wonder plant, I mean, it's got so many beneficiary.
Yeah, have you ever heard of that story with the little girl having a bunch of seizures like every week? Like I think the doctor said something about 50 seizures a week, and there's a big controversy over it because the parents, were getting persecuted by other parents and the public, because they want to invest on giving their daughter medical marijuana. So the doctor who studies in this field with the medical marijuana or medicinal marijuana, he actually came up with a way to purify the THC into more of a pill form, and then she takes it, and she went from 50 seizures a week probably down to 1 a month, I believe.
Yeah.
I mean, it does work wonders, and the fact that it's still illegal is just goes to show that all police forces are keeping it illegal because they want the revenue still.
Oh yeah,
it's all about the inflating Benjamin to them.
Yeah, that's the only reason they make any laws. So So yeah, I mean, he covered a whole range of things as far as the counter economy goes, and in our economy, like we're pointing out, I mean, there's room for like we were saying, medical treatment and even companionship, right? And defense and protection, and all these things offered in the gray and the black here in our economy, and more regulated economies and economies where the state has taken complete control. The black and the gray markets literally offer, the sustaining life force that keeps individuals and society itself going. So, the black markets are very important, and as libertarians, as anarcho-capitalists, we need to, learn to be guerrilla capitalists, right? And learn to not cower to the state.
We need to be the special ops of opting out.
Yeah.
Pure backwoods.
Pure backwoods for the people, exactly. So, Darian, I think you were going to start reading, what chapter are we on now? Chapter 5 out
Ladies
of
and
the
gentlemen,
Agorist...
we are on Chapter 5, Libertarianism.
In the Agorist Manifesto.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, the Agorist Primer, I'm sorry.
Yes, it is the Agorist Primer. Again, we're reading out
Samuel
of that.
Edward Konkin.
And you can also get it on your phone if you want to follow along with us in these episodes.
PDFs
But,
online.
I'm going to go ahead and get us started here, folks. The basic premise of agorism thinking is that counter-economics has failed to free society because counter-economics lacks a moral structure that only a full-blown philosophical system can provide. In this chapter, we deal with the other half of this problem, an ideology unconnected to reality, where counter-economics is application without theory. Libertarianism is theory without application.
I like that. Let's break that down real quick.
Yeah.
Counter economics, right? Partaking in the black and the gray. A lot of people that are engaging in the black and the gray don't necessarily know libertarianism, don't necessarily understand anarchism, but nonetheless they are living it, right? Their whole life is an illegality according to the state. And we're not talking about the red market. We're not talking about violent criminal activity. We're talking about voluntary state banned activity, right? Black and gray markets.
Yeah, gray, you're not they're not filing for taxes.
Right.
It's all pretty much paid on the table, And
So-
you're right. I mean, a lot of people were just so oblivious to the idea of libertarianism and agorism and anarchy.
Right.
And you're right. They just don't understand that, it's a part of their life, whether they know it or not.
Right. They're living it every day. Yeah. And unfortunately, libertarians, right, people that understand anarchy, people that are philosophically sound on the principles of liberty, unfortunately, a lot of times they're just book savvy and they're not actually living the principles. They're not actually fighting the state on an everyday level, So
Yeah, even though some of them will agree with you if you talk to them about it, but they won't actually act on it.
Right.
But that seems like the issue with a lot of people nowadays.
Yeah.
But remember, folks, action is the only way we can achieve our goals.
Yep.
All right, so I'm going to continue on here. Many gods, one morality. Libertarianism differs from all other philosophies by its pluralism. I believe I said that correct?
Yeah, pluralism, yeah.
It is not to ask how you came to the fundamental moral premise. Religious revelation, atheistic observation, natural law theory, and many others. Christians, Taoists, objectivists, pagan travel different routes to arrive at one moral code in common. Initiating of coercion and the threat of violence is immoral. This is the libertarian principle. Two things follow from the phrasing. One, there are no exceptions. Hence, libertarianism affects all human action by this formulation. Two, it is phrased negatively so that anything else is permissible human behavior, though each adherent may find other acts immoral or objectionable.
That's a good point too, right? I really like the way he worded that. Doesn't matter which God you believe in, doesn't matter whether you believe in a God or not. All libertarians basically it's a very pluralistic philosophy. There's a lot of different mindsets in libertarianism, and they all agree that the initiation of force, right, being the first one to use violence against somebody, to use aggression against somebody, that this is inherently wrong. And it's, you know,
Yeah,
that,
I mean that's just human instinct. I mean, we're not born to this world to be, beaten and have violence bestowed on us like just randomly. Like, like people aren't just gonna let that happen. People, like who would want to live that way? Who would want to live in a society where it's okay for other people just to initiate force? Like it's not really talked about or seen, or like no one does anything. Good thing we had people to wake up to these issues like early on in the dark ages when abuse of the people and people violent to each other was just going rampant. I mean, it took people to be like, well, no one should have to ever have force initiated on their property, their body, or their house, or their acquired items. I mean, it's simple, it's basic.
well, it's a very Renaissance idea, right? It's a very Enlightenment an idea. Unfortunately, it's only, you know, what, 300 years old, essentially.
I know, that's a shame. And human beings have been around for how long?
Well, it depends who you talk to.
Yeah, we might get in a whole nother
Yeah,
conversation
go
with
for it.
that.
Yeah.
All right, let's
I think
see.
you finished up that page.
Boom, boom. Christianity yields a yes-no answer to every aspect of human activity. So too, Marxism, Islam, Objectivism, and many, many other understandings of the world's nature. In these systems, anything not prohibited is mandatory. You must or must not. Libertarianism answers only that you may or you may not, leaving choice to you. Any religion or ideology that swears not to concern others to act in accordance with its precepts, sorry about that, is capable of libertarianism. All religions and ideologies that use force for anything save self-defense, in the narrow, immediate sense, excluding prevention, aggression, and other such rationalizations, are enemies of libertarianism. I mean, well, we got anything to comment on that? I know you're thinking over there. You got those thinking eyes.
No, just keep reading it.
Libertarian society. Libertarianism, very pluralism, prevents one form from ascribing any whoa, another one of those words, man. Blows my mind. Unanimous. Characteristics to libertarianism.
So what?
They all want liberty, but for different reasons, and see different ways of achieving it. Some would take control of the state and force people to be free. Others would not even resort to violence to defend themselves, giving all those groups their due for enriching libertarian thought and life with greater variety than any other ideology. The rigorous application of consistency. 2. Which Agorist and this book adhere. It does settle some issues. A free society is one in which man is constrained only by unthinking nature. His fellow man leave him alone. One can personally live up to this, and one can admit only those who uphold it, expelling all those who don't, but one cannot prevent anyone from instituting aggression. One can only deal with it after the fact. Statists advocate creating a bigger criminal, a great monster institution which will terrify nearly everyone, innocent or guilty, into submission. This organization will extract some form of acceptance from its citizens, and yet plunder them all at will. Taxation. It will control their behavior and even their thinking, though some statists seek to place some restraints upon the super-criminal organization. Some of those who advocate the strongest restraints, as they perceive them, call themselves limited government libertarians. That's so funny. Since they seek a small state or minimarchy, they are minimarchist. Consistent libertarians seek
Minarchist, right?
minarchist.
Yeah. Konkin was actually very clever in that sense. He actually coined a lot of phrases. I mean, counter economics is a term coined by Samuel Edward Konkin, and agorism, right, is a coined term by him, and then same with the one you just brought up right now, minarchist, which is rampant amongst the libertarian community, the anarcho-capitalist community, and we don't even realize where these words originated from, right? I mean, so I'm not saying that this guy his reading is kind of hard to follow. Konkin's readings, writing is kind of hard to follow and stuff like that. And I mean, compared to Rothbard, Rothbard's a little bit more concise, a lot more fluid and more academic with his approach. But nonetheless, for those that understand the philosophy already, I believe Konkin did contribute a lot. And right now he's just breaking down the different kinds of libertarianism.
Indeed, there's nobody more Konkin than Konkin.
Yeah.
All right. Taxation. It will control the behavior in every blah blah.
I want to speak up.
Yeah. Some of those who advocate the strongest restraints and as they perceive them, call themselves limited government libertarians, since they seek a small state or minimum monarchy or minimum Marcus, consists libertarian. See no place for criminals, even to fight other criminals. They believe free market, all voluntary. Methods will take care of the few criminals, finding them, investigations, arresting them, delegated protection, trying them, arbitration, and restoring lost value to the victim from the aggressors, restitution. And the means of accomplishing this vary from communal power to highly technological, competitive business agencies and others in between, such as neighborhoods, block associations. Such no-government libertarians are called anarchists. The peaceful libertarians, who refuse even to defend themselves, have to be classified with anarchists. It is bitterly ironic that heavy state propaganda has convinced many people that anarchists throw bombs, since most anti-war movements, draft resistance, disarmament, and tax-resistant groups were organized by anarchists of one sort or another. Perhaps 0.01% of those calling themselves anarchists throughout history have used a bomb. 100% of all states bomb, shells, and machine gun regularly as a matter of course. A libertarian society is one which approximates a free society, save for a small percentage of criminal aggression, which is handled by voluntary mechanisms. A society in which aggression gets out of hand is one with a de facto and not de jure state or government, a statist society. Libertarianism and the free market. A few libertarians advocate communal or neighborhood social organizations with collectively held property. Voluntarily surrendered, most libertarians have adopted the free market and the economic understanding of it developed in Chapter 1. So whenever a conflict between the economics of government intervention or confiscation, statism for short, thank you, book, and free enterprise emerges in public debate, libertarians rush to the forefront of defense of the individual or non-state group. Libertarianism often confuses statism of the left wing and the right by opposing both. Libertarians see war as total socialism and march with many leftists against it. Yet opposing to welfare statism allies libertarianism with some rightists, but statists on the left and the right are easily distinguishable from libertarians in any coalition. Threaten the state's existence and observe their reaction. Conservatives will give up free enterprise rather than see government abolished. Liberals will go to war rather than see government abolished. Libertarians will abolish the state and end both socialism and war. Libertarians and the counter economy. Libertarian descendants, from Polish professors to American students, make up an intellectual field of counter-economics. A Yugoslavian theorist raised in the Marxist tradition call for removing politics from socialism and embracing a market economy. It would appear that there is a neutral affinity between the philosophers of freedom and the practitioners of the counter-economy. Indeed, few libertarians would deny the moral correctness of the latter. An early slogan some radical libertarians put on a button was "Defend the Black Market." Libertarianism in the United States traces its history from the abolish movement to free the slaves, and an act of human counter-economics. And yet, while many abolitionists created and maintained an underground railroad to assist slaves who freed themselves counter-economically, others called for upholding the law, working within the system and engaging in politics to take over the government and pass laws to free slaves. The same division between activists and reformers afflicts modern libertarians, and many other ideological movements to be sure. George Orwell, who came to a type of libertarianism from activism in the socialist movement of the 1930s, cascaded some of his fellow socialists for refusing to dirty their hands in actual fighting for their beliefs on the battlefields of Spain. This perceptive author of 1984, An Animal Farm, noted these hypocritical what's that right there? Help me out, man. That's another one of those words in the book.
Gelatinate or something.
Gelatinate.
Are you wearing a Skull and Bones hat?
Nah, man. This is Pirates. Going Pirates all the way.
Oh, okay.
Arr.
just for all you conspiracy theorists out there.
All right. I got Skull and Bones. No, I don't think so, man. For hanging around English drawing rooms and waxing equinoctial for the socialist cause while contributing precious little else. He called them parlor pinks. Libertarianism is afflicted with more than its share of liberty libs today. Some, though, are horribly paralyzed by the question, how do we achieve a free society? This combination of strategic paralysis, moral lassitude, honest confusion due to the rich variety of libertarian pluralism, and not a little selling out, has weakened libertarianism to the point where what is presently called the libertarian movement may no longer be trusted to defend the counter-economy and achieve a libertarian society. The next chapter shows why. Chapter 6.
So basically, what we have here, let me see this real quick. We made some really important points there. Darren was reading, and basically, I really liked this point here. He points out that consistent libertarians see no place for criminals, even to fight other criminals, right? So consistent libertarians, if you want to call yourself a libertarian or a liberty-minded whatever, right, a liberty defender, then you cannot be for the state in any degree whatsoever. Why? Because it's a criminal element that initiates violence and force against people, that steals on a massive scale, right? So you cannot be for a minimal state, even if it's a tiny state, right, that runs courts and the military. It's still stealing on a massive level and using force and violence in order to sustain itself. This is inconsistent with the libertarian philosophy. This is what I liked about that. And then another really important point he said here is that essentially people, libertarians that are consistent, eventually become anarchists, right? And then it's really, really important point to make here as well. 0.01%, right, according to Konkin. I mean, and really the number is really minute when you consider everything. When you consider anarcho-capitalism as just that wing, and agorism, within anarchism, they've used a lot less violence than the anarcho-syndicalists and the anarcho-communists, right? Anarcho-syndicalism used violence during the Spanish Revolution War, as we were reading a little bit. So, I mean, it goes. Basically, it just points out that anarchists don't use bombs, whereas 100% of states, right, 100% of every single government is going to use bullets and bombs and guns in order to sustain its power and control, right? So anarchy is not violence, my friends. And then obviously economics, right? Even socialists agree that a free market is the best way to go. Konkin was pointing out. And this is another really good point, is that libertarianism often confuses status of the left and the right, right? According to the every time you talk to a Democrat, right, they think you're a Republican, and every time you talk to a Republican, they think you're a Democrat, and they don't understand that we're standing on principle, we're standing on liberty, we're standing on humanity and human rights and natural law. And of course, their political little spectrum, their political party isn't going to hold up any of those ideologies, right? It's going to do away with that. And he really cuts over here. He really cuts on the on both parties. He says conservatives will give up the free enterprise rather than see government abolished, right? Conservatives would give up capitalism a lot quicker than they're going to give up the government. And liberals, so-called liberals,
government.
yeah, so-called fake liberals, right? Socialists would rather give up, peace, right? Would rather go to war than give up government, right?
They'd rather give up their own nuts.
Their own their own principles, essentially. I like how I like how he pointed out here as well that when you consider the slave, right, the emancipation of the slaves, it was counter economics that freed the slaves, and that's in a lot of ways the origin, at least in the United States, of counter economics and libertarianism. Applied libertarianism would be the slave trade, right? Maybe the Tea Party, you can argue, right? The Boston Tea Party dumping a bunch of tea that the king wanted to tax us on. But definitely the slave trade, right? Some people, and like Konkin brought up, some people engage in actually, transferring slaves in the Underground Railroad, breaking the law, right? Breaking the law, breaking the law, breaking the law, breaking the law. They have a new album, by the way, those satanic bastards. But yeah, I mean, some people actually broke the law in order to emancipate people, right? In order to free people, and other people wanted to work within the system, wanted to, we'll vote slaves free, over time and whatnot. And if it wasn't, honestly, you could argue if it wasn't for the efforts of the Underground Railroad and the free
Those
slave movement.
politicians that went in there to free the slaves wouldn't have meant jack shit.
Yeah, they wouldn't have done anything. The only reason they did it is because there was enough public support, enough people were already doing it. That's the only reason they passed the law. So it's like the marijuana thing, right? They're only now making it recreational and legal because so many people freaking do it, right? So it's a fact that we broke the law to begin with that made politicians change, right? They're power trips. And then there was one other really good point here that was pretty badass. I guess just basically with Orwell, right, bringing up the left stuff. I didn't know that. I didn't know that Orwell was involved, with a lot of the anarcho-syndicalist stuff in Spain. That's interesting. So basically, those are the highlights of the section chapter 5, libertarianism, and then we're coming on here to chapter 6, applied libertarianism in the Agorist Primer. Brief history of liberty. The history of the libertarian movement can be divided into 4 historical periods. The first covered most of our history, when many men and women derived the ideas of freedom and defended freedom as they understood it with little comprehension of the mechanics of human action. Some of these, such as the Quakers of Pennsylvania, settled colonies away from predatory statism and developed peace and trade with the natives. The American Revolution erupted the year that Adam Smith published the first basic work on economics, Wealth of Nations, right? It's classic. As far as the invisible hand, as far as the concept of money, and
Well,
these are concepts that are made pillars in his book. What's
well,
up, man?
I like that how Conkin brought up the Quakers. I mean, the Quakers were like they were those people we were talking about. They lived anarchy totally because I mean the Quakers took a lot of persecution. I mean, even back when they were started in England,
Yeah,
uh, even up till they had founded a colony in Pennsylvania. Like, I mean, trading with Native Americans was illegal in most of the colonies. I mean, you couldn't even go past the freaking mountains
yeah,
because it was native territory. But the Quakers said, nah, we're tired of religious persecution. We're going to do what we want. And what did they do? They went to immediate action and they opt out. And I guess the powers that be at the time really didn't like it too
right.
much.
Yeah, the Quakers are an interesting bunch. They actually got a lot of their beliefs from like the Anabaptist movement, and I believe the Quakers were a branch off from the Church of England, but was really more of an Anabaptist movement in the sense of like very anti, very much in favor of the separation of church and state, anti, the state being combined with the church and whatnot. And this fact made them very much pacifist, right? And just like the Amish, just like the Mennonites, the Quakers are in the same type of philosophical Christian background where they actually take the words of Jesus literally, right?
Well,
When
hey,
someone smites you on your cheek, you turn to them the other. And we know that the non-aggression principle doesn't ask for pacifism, right? The non-aggression principle defends self-defense. It defends the idea of being able to defend yourself, but definitely, when it comes to pacifists, I mean, they have to be, like Honkin said in this earlier section, they have to be considered anarchists as well, because they're not willing to use aggression, not even for self-defense. So of course they're not non-aggressionists, right?
Well, did you know that even after declaring independence from the kingdom, from the great tyrants across seas, 13 colonies, the United States
Yeah.
military actually sent a group of military, like a military group, down to the Quaker compound, pretty much because they were resisting against the tax against distilling whiskey.
Oh, it happens all the time, man. It happens all the time. I mean, religious communities are always getting persecuted. And it's interesting. I mean, definitely, I'm sure I've checked out a couple episodes of the Christian Anarchist show here on this network, on the Voluntary Virtues Network, and they're definitely getting on it. So, we sympathize with a lot of those. I personally sympathize. I know Darian is not a Christian. I am, but I sympathize with those beliefs. And it's interesting how much Jesus, at least from an objective point of view, whether you believe Jesus was a son of God or not, or died for your sins or not, it really is interesting to his teachings are very much anarchistic.
Oh yeah,
Is
like I may not be too sure if the guy even existed, but I definitely
Well,
agree
come on now,
with
come
what
on. That's
the
a historical fact. I mean,
it's a historical fact now.
yeah, it is.
But yeah, I definitely agree with a lot of things he had said in order for humanity to live with each other well and prosperous as we should, But I guess his word really didn't get around too much.
Well, yeah, people don't take. They claim right to follow him, but they don't even take his word seriously.
Well, a lot of
That's
Christians
like,
now they have more Catholic morals and a Catholic view than a Christian view, which
yeah,
is
an actual biblical
I
view.
think a lot of people are actually getting too confused.
Yeah, yeah. So I like here that Conkin points out, the American Revolution erupted the year that Adam Smith published his first basic work on economics, right? The Wealth of Nations, 1776, in Scotland. Still, the confused American revolutionaries allowed the Federalist statists to restore a strong central government by a bit of trickery called the Constitution,
Oh no.
a piece of paper which supposedly guaranteed to restrain this new state. Most of the revolutionaries, nearly all signers of the Declaration of Independence, for instance, opposed the Constitution. Many Americans were taken in by this statist selling job and laid down their arms that were defending them, practically in exchange for this paper guarantee. As soon as the new government was elected, it sent the military to Pennsylvania to crush tax rebels who opposed the new tax on whiskey
There
distillation,
it
the Whiskey
is.
Rebellion.
There it is.
In England, well, it wasn't the Quakers though. I mean, Quakers don't drink, but yeah, definitely the Whiskey Rebellion. I mean, I think they were shutting that down, man. That's the first act of treason that the U.S. federal government engaged in. First act of tyranny. In England, soon after, a man named William Goodwin took the political ideas of the American revolutionaries to their logical conclusion and became the first anarchist. That's a cool guy to look up, William Goodwin. In the 1830s, European intellectual scene, a man named Max Stirner combined anarchy with defense of the free market, as far as Adam Smith understood it then, and created a philosophy of egoism or total individualism. For a time, he contested with Marx and Engels for the loyalty of the young Hegelians in the German clubs. They wrote a 2-volume defense of their theory against Steiner, the German ideology. In the United States, Josiah Warren continued the anarchist tradition in Massachusetts. One of his abolitionist followers, Lysander Spooner, finally developed the killing argument against the U.S. state in his remarkable natural law treatise, No Treason, the Constitution of No Authority, which is actually on YouTube, audio book on YouTube. Definitely check it out. It blew my mind. I mean, the fact that you didn't sign the Constitution, right, proves that it's a binding contract that you are not actually bound to, right? The fact that they try to bind it on you is only socialism and collectivism being enforced upon you. Why? Because men 200 years ago, 39 of them, signed a contract that you are now bound to. How does that make sense? That's collectivist. That's socialist. That's the idea that somehow these founding fathers, created us and, allow us to live and be. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Let's see here. So that's definitely something to check out. Lysander Spooner's No Treason, the Constitution of No Authority. Google and YouTube that one. Alas, it was nearly a century late because the state was entrenched well enough to fight a civil war to destroy the remaining internal restraints of its power, naturally under the pretext of expanding freedom by abolishing slavery. Yeah, right. And we all know the Union expanded its power, right? Abraham Lincoln had to use a humanitarian cause of freeing the slaves in order to increase the power of the presidency, the executive branch, and increase the power of the Union, of the federal government.
That tall trickster.
It's like Obama, right? Increasing the power of the federal government and the union, right? In order to, say the excuse of, oh, well, we just want to take care of your health care. We just want to take care of you. We want to make sure you're healthy. It's a perfect. They're not going to tell you they want to, tax you to death and control you and regulate you and throw you in jail and kill you if you resist. They can't say that. That would just be too honest. So it's just ridiculous, Spooner saw through that smokescreen and supported both abolition and secession. That's crazy, right? Just like the modern libertarian, we support both the abolition, right, the emancipation of man against man, the emancipation of woman against man and woman against woman, the emancipation of free humanity, and we also support secession. I mean, a state has a right to secede, a county has a right to secede, a neighborhood, a household, an individual, all have a right to secede, right? So it's free association, right? Free disassociation. These are the doctrines, if you will, of the Church of Liberty, right?
Right.
These are some of the doctrines of it. So.
Passed down by the gods of the state.
Well, nah, man. What are you talking about, man?
Oh, my bad, man.
Doctrines of liberty passed down by the state.
Oh no, totally heard something else, man.
That was that statism coming out.
I guess so. I'm over here writing down something, and I just was like, what doctrines? What, you mean doctrines like regulations?
No, doctrines are like principles or beliefs, or like
Yeah, but my bad. Jumped on the gun on that one. So
he continues on here. Southern states He supported the secession of the southern states. His followers, Benjamin Tucker, discovered Steiner's European individualism and combined the two traditions. The heyday of individualist anarchism. During the publication of Tucker's Liberty magazine from 1881 to 1908, could be called the second stage of libertarianism. George Bernard Shaw saw, for example, broke into the American literary scene through Liberty. The full title of Tucker's journal was Liberty, the mother, not the daughter, of order. Isn't that the truth, right? It reminds me of Frederick Bastiat's quote. It is not because we have government and law that we have life, liberty, and property, right? It is because we have life, liberty. We had life, liberty, and property beforehand to begin with. That was the cause for law and government to be created to begin with, right?
Yeah.
So natural law came first, not governmental regulation. So let's see here. Tucker, unfortunately, still had problems with economics, not understanding subjective value or the validity of rent, interest, and profit. While willing to accept anything arrived at freely, he and his associates spent their energies on side issues and invalid controversies. When World War I broke out, they lost the center stage of history to the socialists for half a century. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, I know Tucker was the one that translated the debate between Joseph Proudhon and Frédéric Bastiat from French into English. And Benjamin Tucker was, he was an American anarchist. And yeah, I mean, definitely the way he translated it, he was definitely in favor of Proudhon's stance. And Proudhon was the mutualist founder, and he was against rent, and he was against interest and all these things. And of course, Bastiat was defending it from a very, logical, objectivist point of view. I mean, I highly suggest you guys looking that up just to get the scoop on that. I mean, that was very insightful debate. But yeah, unfortunately, Tucker didn't see all the way through, and they ended up losing the debate, just like a lot in a lot of ways the libertarian movement, right? At the same time that Tucker himself was giving up brilliant Austrian economics, at the same time that Tucker himself was giving up, the brilliant Austrian economist Ludwig von Mises wrote his doctoral thesis in 1910, The Theory of Money and Credit, which explained interest, inflation, and the business cycles. His analysis led to an an easy explanation and prediction of the Great Depression, but it went unheeded. In 1941, Mises published his magnus opus, Human Action. Along the way, he sent the communist economists into a panic by proving that economic calculation was impossible once socialist status destroyed the free market pricing system. Isn't this so true? I mean, economic calculation in the socialist commonwealth. Ludwig von Mises pointed out how socialism was bound to fail, and this is like when socialism just kicking off. 1910. I mean, he's like describing like how the Russian Revolution is going to fail, the Bolshevik Revolution is going to fail. 1949, right? He's writing how socialism is going to fail, and still the United States adopts those policies, socialistic policies.
Yeah, he was the Nostradamus of economics.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when the government decides, demand, right, supply and demand, it has no way of determining where to send resources. Basically, it's summed up in an easy way. Unless there's money, and unless you can determine how much people are willing to pay for materials, for goods and services, then there's no way to know how much to send to any given area. Right? So like this beer, for example, this craft brew, if I send it to the northeast side of San Antonio, right, I might sell more than if I send it to the southwest side, right? So if people didn't have money, how would you know how much beer to send to what area? You don't know what the demand is. You don't know you don't know how much people are willing to spend in each area because there's no money. So you're left in a loop, and this is what leads to shortages. This is what leads to scarcity, right? Non-market scarcity, right? So during the 1920s and the 1930s, proto-libertarians such as H.L. Mencken and Albert J. Nock kept the philosophy alive, but in despair. One of Nock's students, Frank Kodorov, reached one of my students, Murray Rothbard, in 1950. Rothbard connected with the American anarchist tradition, and the modern libertarian stage began. Thank God that happened.
Right.
Another of Nock's students, Suzanne Le Follette, inspired many modern libertarian feminists. More women, Rose Wilder, Lane, and Isabel Patterson, kept libertarianism alive in the 1940s. For 20 years, Rothbard tirelessly sold his consistent libertarian view in the intellectual circles and was purged from the right, from objectivists, from the left, and various other groups, always taking a few more with him, never despairing. In 1969, during the heat of the student revolt against the Vietnam War and the draft, both the leftist students for the Democratic Society and the rightist Young Americans for Freedom split internally. The anarchists from SDS joined the Free Marketeers from YF at a convention called by Dr. Rothbard, and thousands of young activists were unleashed onto campuses to fight for pure freedom. This is something we got to do more in our local communities. We got to find ways to organize conventions and find charismatic, well-spoken people to present these ideas in very simple, succinct fashions, in order to get people to come along, get people to get involved, get people to get excited about these ideas.
Yeah, we do. I mean, we definitely, as a community, and not just our community, y'all's community as well. I mean, we definitely have to get out there, get people together, and pretty much get this ball rolling. I mean, it's already rolling, but let's make that snowball twice as big.
Yeah, right. So within a few years, there were 1 million libertarians in North America, and small groups from England to Spain to Australia. Libertarians graduated and started businesses or entered the higher levels of academia, bringing reinforcements to Dr. Rothbard and his previously small court. Libertarian reporters, authors, and even newscasters spread through the media. Robert Lefebvre, another libertarian educator contemporary with Rothbard, graduated hundreds of businessmen from his seminars and thousands from Rampart College. Leonard Read and his crew reached many from all walks of life at the Foundation for Economic Education. New foundations and institutes sprang up. Early in 1971, a group of Californians started a Libertarian Party as a front for distribution of literature and appeal for equal time on local media. In December of 1971, David F. Nolan convened a founding convention of a Libertarian Party in deadly earnest. Rothbard scoffed at the idea of a party as widely premature. In 1972, a LP presidential candidate got few votes, but thanks to a regenerate Republican elector from Virginia, John Hospers, professor of philosophy at the University of Southern California, received 1 electoral vote. His running mate, Toni Nathan of Oregon, became the first woman to receive one. Oh, that's interesting. The elector Rogan McBride became LP Libertarian Party nominee for president in 1976. The Libertarian Party
time we. Right now.
8 minutes till the show is done. I don't know why it's not letting me pick the. I don't know why it's
Really?
not.
We blew through that hour like that?
Yeah, we're almost done.
I thought we would have had like 30 minutes.
Nah, you took like you're going through for like 20 minutes, 25 minutes. I switch. I can't put the other camera on. It's just one and the other one that's on. Oh, well, okay. I guess we're still live here. Sorry, guys. Sorry about that. I don't know why our other camera keeps going down and our computer keeps shutting down.
Yeah, I think it has something to do. Yeah, guys, I'm not on the screen now, but you can probably see my hand. But yeah, I think it has something to do maybe just too much data being run through the computer, or maybe there's some unlikely parties out there.
We got an old ass camera running this, so it's like, yeah, I'm really sorry about this, guys. You know, we really hate the fact that it keeps cutting out, and I don't even know what to say anymore. You know, I'm just sorry about that. So like we were basically finishing up here, section chapter 6, applied libertarianism, and I mean, just breaking it down, you know, the early stages of the Libertarian Party, early stages of how the party got started, the Libertarian failure. Let's see here. I guess we can finish it up with this section here. Okay, so during 1973, the party threat became serious, and the libertarian movement began to split. The anti-party libertarians called themselves various names, such as the New Libertarians, or left, more consistent radical libertarians, left libertarians, right? Radical libertarians, and exotic names such as voluntarists. The common goal of these activists was to deflect the party anti-principle in the minds and hearts of most libertarians and pursue the original goals of liberty in libertarian, that is, anti-political ways. The patriarchs, as those who professed being ruled by the party yet called themselves anarchists, were then called, and their minarchist allies were small in number, but did have an advantage in getting newspaper and television coverage. Radical libertarian campaigns, such as the 1976 Vote for Nobody, and the counter campaign received publicity on several hundred radio stations, and 50 of registered American voters failed to cast ballots. How many voters don't vote, right, in today's elections? A lot. More and more.
So much that they got to get dead people and,
yeah,
double votes going in.
Right. So more and more pure libertarians gave up on the label as the word was increasingly identified with a group out to take political power as opposed to abolishing it. The new libertarian found that many of who would agree to live freely and trade without aggression were repelled by the libertarian name. Finally, in 1983, the movement of the libertarian left and the New Libertarian Alliance and others moved to drop the libertarian label entirely. Some chose the name voluntarism. Those wishing to promote the completely consistent ideology described in this book chose the name Agorist. During the 1973 struggle, the challenges for an alternative strategy to politics were answered by the NLA founder, who discovered and coined the term counter-economics. See Chapter 3. So I was wrong about that point. I guess Konkin didn't coin counter-economics. But the New Libertarian Alliance, I guess he's the one that coined the term counter-economics. See Chapter 3. In 1980, the NLA published the New Libertarian Manifesto, which explained agorism and beyond the libertarian and beyond to libertarian activists. Well, I don't know. NLA might have been run by Konkin. I don't know, so I still might be right about that. That's just a nice way of him not bringing up his name.
Maybe a 0.01%. Yeah. You might be right.
Drinking some craft brew, you know, stash from Austin, Texas. Don't drink that crap. Don't drink that canned crap. It's bad for you. You know,
That's just nasty.
Be a smart consumer. You know, just come on, like educate yourself. Like you ain't supposed to drink that stuff. It's got fish guts in it.
Beaver ass glands.
Yeah, right. Natural flavors. The libertarian failure. Libertarians were and still are a pluralistic group. Different interpretations of liberty and how to achieve it were cheerfully tolerated for the most part. The appearance of a party line was an anathema to the spirit of a living variety. The burning issue shifted from which new libertarian theory works and which does not, to which libertarian candidate can get elected. So it went from a philosophical debate to a political debate. Yay! To many libertarians was a fine theory which had no obvious practice. To many, libertarianism was a fine theory which had no obvious practice. There are many paths to freedom, true, and each individual should choose the one he or she thought most workable. One that was chosen swallowed up the others. How it did, it was simple. It tied into the state's grant of monopoly to ideologies that form a centralized political party, and then spokespersons of that ideology are automatically represented as servitors or functionaries of that party, even when they vigorously deny any connection by the statist media. And then again, maybe not. Libertarian may have come to mean Libertarian Party member. But agorists, voluntarists, left libertarians, and such still outnumber the few thousand Libertarian Party members. And even the never since matched million votes with their candidates Edward Clark received in the 1980s in the presidential race. So essentially, to wrap this up, basically it does, it sounds like this is a main issue that the new libertarian and the libertarian left, right, and the agorist has with the term libertarian, is that essentially it's come to mean the Libertarian Party, right? And to have a Libertarian Party, well, that's completely inconsistent with the Libertarian philosophy, ladies and gentlemen. So we need to quit counting on politicians and the state to fix problems. We got to quit voting, and we got to use counter economics. We got to quit paying taxes and supporting the state apparatus that is bringing you and I into total slavery, ladies and gentlemen. This was the Agora Underground. I'm Comrade Dick.
And I'm Darren Hernandez. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, yes, yes. We do appreciate you guys listening. This was the Voluntary Virtues Network production. And we will catch y'all on the flip. Peace, love, and anarchy, guys. We love y'all. See you next week. Sorry about the mishaps. We'll get it fixed up.